So, okay, I'm going to record. And I'm going to share my screen with you. Well, first of all, let me introduce myself. That might make some sense. My name is John Borland. I am the undergraduate director for the sport management program at Springfield College. So I've been here, this is my 13th year. I've been the director only for a couple of years. We've got such a big program here that, we need a director. We need a lot of people sort of looking after the program. We got about 190 students in the program. And that, there's a lot of sport management programs in the country, and it varies. There's some programs that have up to 300 students or more. We're probably one of the bigger programs at Springfield. We've only got about 2,500 kids here, so it's a small private college experience. But when you have 190 kids, out of 2,500, that's about 8% of the students that are studying sport management. So it's a fairly big program. I think the other big one, we might be the biggest one on campus right now, but it's not by a lot. There's other programs that are pretty close to the number of students that we have. So Kate, if you can read the chat there, she's put a couple of, if you look at your chat, you click on that, she's put a couple of links up there if you want to copy and paste those about things that she wants you to fill out. She's one of our admissions people. And there's information up there about how to get in touch with an admissions counselor and just completing this form. And I'm going to put my email address up here so that you guys can have that in case you want to email me. So let me do that right now. So that's my email address, and I'll give you my name too. We should do that. You can email me anytime. If you email me at 3 in the morning, I'm probably not going to respond right away, but I will email you back eventually. What I want to do first is talk to you about our curriculum. So I'm going to share the screen with you, and we'll go through some of the classes so at least you got a good sense of, and you may have looked at this already, but I want to give you a little bit more information about it. Okay, so this is our college catalog, which is online. And if you look through that, there's a core curriculum, which I'm not going to get into too much, but you do need to take some general education classes while you're here, because we're not just educating you to be a sport management person, we're educating you to be a citizen of the United States or globally. So there's some general education credits that you're going to take, and it looks like Alyssa's banging out some of those already in her high school. She's taken her math and her Spanish, and there was another one. What was the other one? English, you said? Right. So yeah, everybody takes these classes, and they cover like a wide range of areas. Okay, but the major part of what you'd be doing here at Springfield College is, of course, the sport management major. So you need 120 credits to graduate. 40 of those will be your gen eds, and then 63 of those would be sport management classes. So that, you do the math on that one, that's 103. And then usually that gives you about 5 or 6 classes that you can take as a minor. And a lot of our kids will do a business management minor. We do have a sport analytics minor as well. Now the sport analytics class, oh, and by the way, Peter, if you want me to send this to you so that your son can see this video, certainly let me know. You can email me with your email information, and I'm happy to send the video to you.
That's great. Yeah, I had asked when I had contacted admissions, and they said you would record it.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
That'll be awesome.
Yeah, happy to help you with that. So that leaves you about 17 credits again in the minors or sport analytics, business management. There's marketing minor as well that a lot of kids will do. There's a lot of choice when it comes to minor. Usually if you're a sport management minor, or major, we don't do it as a minor, by the way, but if you're a sport management major, having those business classes are pretty important as a supplement to these sport management classes. So let's go in order here. We do require an accounting class in our major because it's part of our accreditation. So, we have a body that sort of oversees what our curriculum is. And concepts of accounting is So you can see there's two there, principles of accounting and concepts. Concepts of accounting is for people who aren't business majors, so it's a little easier class. Sociology of sport, you can see that's got a different prefix on it because it's taught by the physical education department, but we're going to be teaching it next fall. So it'll actually say SMRT on it instead. And that isn't going to, you're not going to take that one until you're a senior. You can see that there's numbers with each one. So 428 is a 400 level class. So that means you would take it as a senior or a junior. But let's look at some of the 100 level classes and let me just highlight those. These are the classes that you take your first year. Your first semester, a student would typically take 101 and 116. So 101 is our Intro to Sport Management class. It's really an important foundational class. And by the way, interrupt me if you guys have questions at all during this. You know, something, I mean, I'll save some time at the end, of course, but if you have other questions or questions come up, certainly interrupt me during. Let me see how many people we got on here. Hold on a second. Okay, we got a few more. So 101 is that foundational class that you take and you get a real good sense of what's out there and what options are out there. And one thing I would encourage students to do when they come in is keep an open mind and learn about the major and the industry before you decide what you want to do with it. A lot of students will come to me and they'll say something like, I want to do this with the major. I'm like, okay, that's good that you have a direction, but also be willing to consider some other options with that. Event management, 116. I'm skipping over dynamics of leadership for a minute. Event management and promotions is the other class that you take your first semester. That class is attached to our Hoop Hall event. The Basketball Hall of Fame, many of you know, it's probably in Springfield. They have a tournament. It's not even really a tournament. It's a showcase for the top high school basketball players, and they do it in January, so over Martin Luther King weekend. And we host it along with the Basketball Hall of Fame. They're not having it this year for obvious reasons, or I shouldn't say this year, but in 2020, they're not going to have it. I'm assuming, or 2021, they're not going to have it. I'm assuming we'll be back on schedule in 2022. I hope so anyway. And what's interesting about this class is the students all take an incomplete in this course. And they do most of the coursework in the fall, but then they come back in January, a week early, and they volunteer at this event. And it is a national high-profile event. You have the top high school, boys high school basketball teams in the country playing at it. And it's not a tournament because they don't whittle it down to semifinals and finals and all that. But you get some of the top coaches there. LeBron's kid played here last year, which frankly, it sounds exciting, but it was a pain in the butt having him there because of all the security detail that we had to go through. Basically, his kid plays for Sierra Canyon, which is a California high school, and they came out with their own security detail and basically told our security folks, this is how we're going to run things while we're here. So that was a pretty interesting wrinkle that we had to deal with. And the fact that LeBron was there as well was a whole other issue. The Lakers were playing the Celtics one of those nights that his kid was playing. So he was able to come and see his son play. And then he went and played, probably went up and beat up on the Celtics that night. I don't know if they did, actually. I don't know who won that game. So, but you want to stick to the schedule here. So the 200 level classes would be sophomore level classes. So we do an international relations class, communication and sport, which I teach that one. And that class really works on your verbal and your oral communication skills. We do a ton of presentations in our classes because we want you to get comfortable standing up in front of people. Customer hospitality. A lot of sport management programs will have like a customer behavior type class, but we have something called customer hospitality where you learn to dispense really good customer service. And that's really important in our industry because you want people to buy again. You want them to be a repeat buyer, whether they come to an event again or whether they buy a shoe, because sport industry is very vast in that, we think about professional sports because that's what we're used to thinking about, but we have interns at places like Reebok, Converse, shoe companies, IMG, Octagon, who are agencies that, represent athletes, but also represent, companies like BMW who want to do sponsorships in sport. And then of course there's college athletics. So organizations, Division I colleges, Division III colleges, you can work in those as well. And, in the sport industry. So those are the 200 levels. I'm not going to give you a lot of detail about these. You can always click on them and look and see what they cover. International, it's important to have that because a lot of our kids think mostly about US sports, unless you're a big soccer fan and you might think about the English Premier League a little bit, but it's important to have that global perspective. SMRT 340, which is, I'll show you on my cursor, it's a sales class. 75% of jobs, entry-level jobs in sport are usually in sales. That scares a lot of kids away because they're like, I don't want to do sales. I don't want to pick up the phone and call people that I don't know. One thing I would tell you is that you're not going to do that forever. And it's a really good way to understand the revenue side of organizations and how they bring in money. And a lot of it's calling and asking people to buy tickets. Then marketing and public relations, you also take that as a junior, probably take it as a sophomore too, if you wanted to. And that one, marketing, there's probably no more important aspect in a business management major, which sport is, than marketing. If you can't create demand for your products, then you're not going to be in business very long. And then we also do a venue and personnel management class. So we've combined venue and HR together. And it seems like an odd fit, but it really isn't. So we teach you how to run facilities, but we also teach you how to hire people to run those facilities. So that's where the HR part comes in. Practicum, what that is, it's like a mini internship. So you do 120 hours working for an organization that's near the college. So some people will work at the college, like in athletics or maybe in campus recreation, but a lot of people will work at a high school athletic department. And the idea here is that we're trying to get your resume, things on your resume. So the hoop hall in SMRT 116, we're trying to get that on your resume. And then we're also trying to get this 120-hour experience so that you have some things on your resume that you got through the curriculum, which is really important. We don't want you to have to go out every summer, although every summer you're going to probably have to try to do something if you want to get things on your resume. But we have built some things into the curriculum as well. Sport governance and strategy. That's at the 400 level. We talk a lot about the Olympics, NCAA, and how they govern themselves. Ethics, we are no longer going to have that course next fall. We're getting rid of that because we want to bring in an esports class. We can't, we have a limited number of credits that we can offer because you got to be able to take other things. So we're going to offer a special topics class in the place of the ethics class. And the first special topic is probably going to be esports because that's become really important in our industry. One thing that you're not going to notice, and we get parents asking us about this, is what about analytics? We don't do a separate analytics course, but we do have analytics concepts built into a lot of courses. So what analytics is using raw data to basically learn about as many people as you can and what their buying habits are. So I'll give you an example. Most organizations want to get rid of paper tickets because they want you to take your phones in and scan with your phone your ticket. So if you go to like a Red Sox or a Yankees game or even a Devils game down there in New Jersey, they want you to scan with your phone because what they're able to do is pull a lot of information about you. I mean, psychographics and people's lifestyle, those characteristics are really hard to learn. So a sport organization wants to learn as much about you. So they want everything to be digital. So if you bought one ticket to a New Jersey Devils game, they're going to send you emails after that saying, hey, how about buying some more tickets? They want to know whether you bought hot dogs or a jersey, at the game so they can target you again to buy more things. It's a business in many cases. It doesn't mean that there aren't not-for-profit organizations in sport. There certainly are many not-for-profit organizations that are not about wealth maximization. They're more about, an important mission, whether it's social justice. The Red Sox, every sports organization usually has a not-for-profit arm. So the Red Sox do the Red Sox Foundation. And pretty much every organization is going to have that. We do a legal class. We do a management of financial resources class. So these are all classes that you're going to find typical in a sport management program. And I certainly want to tell you what's not typical about our program. And I'll get to that in a minute. We offer a seminar class. So that's where you, right before you go out on your internship, it's a lot about professional development and figuring out how to enhance your personal brand before you go out. The Practicum course, that 384 course that I was telling you about, we do a lot of cover letter and resume work in there, but we do some cover letter and resume work in the seminar class as well, because you're going a year without us sort of looking at those things. So it's really important that we look at those and make sure you're branding yourself and that you're prepared for the internship. And the internship is the last thing. It's a 12-credit internship. And the reason it's 12 credits is because we want you to be a full-time student while you're taking it. So we want you to be able to take that and only that during the semester, because it's 540 hours. And if you do the math on that, it's about 14 weeks of about 40 hours a week. Okay. This semester, we have a ton of kids going out in the spring. And to be honest with you, it's very difficult for them to find internships because right now, not a lot of sport organizations have decided what they're doing in the spring yet in terms of playing and preparing for seasons. But when you guys get here, if you end up choosing Springfield College, that's not going to be an issue. We've never had problems with students getting internships. The college has a really good reputation. We have a lot of graduates around the country, people that we can call on. It is the student's job to find the internship, but we certainly help students find internships in terms of connecting them with people and trying to get them interviews. So there's a lot of help. So a lot of these classes, I think, are pretty typical of what a sport management program would have. Not so much customer hospitality. Not a lot of organizations or sport management organizations are necessarily going to have as robust an internship as we do. I've seen a lot with 450 hours, some like 6 credits or 9 credits, whereas we really require a lot in our internship. And that's the 3 experiences that I've told you about: the undergraduate internship, the practicum experience, and then the hoop hall. The hoop hall is a 5-day showcase or a 5-day event, but we're always going to be telling you about other events while you're here and other things that you can get on your resume. So I'm going to stop sharing that and see if you guys have any questions that you want to ask at this moment. Nothing about the curriculum. And one thing that I think is pretty good about coming to Springfield College as opposed to a bigger college like a UMass or a UConn or even a Syracuse, who does have sport management as well. Those are big colleges, and I'm not saying that you're a number at those, but it's a little tougher to stand out when there's so many people there. I went to UConn as a PhD student, and there were quite a few people there, about 17,000 students. And then when you add grad students in, it was a lot more than that. One thing that's really nice about Springfield is professors learn your names pretty quickly. We've got about 30 to 35 advisees per faculty member. We've got 6 faculty members in the department to deal with 190 students. I wish we had another faculty member, but I think we're doing pretty well. We have personal academic advising meetings. So you come in and meet with us every semester to help pick your classes. But if you only meet with me, the required 7 times that you're at Springfield and the 4 years that you're here, I'm a little disappointed. When you first come in, I tell you, hey, I want to meet with you as much as possible. Let's talk about your classes. Let's talk about your interests. The light bulb doesn't usually go off with students until about their first semester of their junior year. Hey, this is what I'm really interested in. And that's fine. That's what I expect, because you're taking a lot of these classes and you're learning about things. And you're not going to know necessarily what avenues you want to pursue. And who knows, you might change your mind once you get out there and do your internship. The point of doing the internship is, it's a course that you got to take, but it's also to help you decide, hey, do I want to do this? So that's one thing. That's why we want you to be there for 540 hours, because if you're only there for 400 hours, you don't feel as much a regular at that organization. We love for kids to do their internship in their last semester with no other coursework left. I've found that it's really difficult for students to come back to campus after they've done the internship because they love being out of being out of class. Which I don't take that as a slight at all. I mean, you've been sitting in class for 3.5 years, and I understand you want to get out and start working and applying some of this knowledge. But the beauty of doing the internship in the spring is that you don't have any other, you don't have to come back and do any more coursework. So they can hire you if you do a really good job there. A lot of, not a lot, but a few students are like, oh, I want to be on campus for my last semester. I'm like, you got to think about your career at this point. You can't be thinking about, hanging out with your pals your last semester. You've got to be thinking about your career. So if you can get a really good internship. Now, not everybody goes out in the spring. It depends on what you're interested in. So if you're interested in the NFL, they don't do spring internships. The season takes place in the fall. So they do typically summer and fall internships. If it's the NBA, that's a season that stretches over both the spring and the fall semesters. So they're going to do internships on both semesters. If you're doing Major League Baseball, that's spring. And typically they're going to want you to stay through the summer. You're doing minor league baseball, same thing. MLS, that's a little bit different. They'll do internships pretty much all year. The problem with MLS is it's such a long season at 11 months. They usually want you to stay for the whole 11 months. And if it's a non-paid internship, that's awfully difficult for students to do because you got to live for 11 months and you're not necessarily being paid to do it. If you have a question, like internships, I'd say about half of them are paid, half of them are not paid in the sport industry because they know that that the students have to do it for credit. So they say, well, we know you have to do it for credit, so we don't necessarily have to pay you to do it, which I think is a horrible strategy for them. I think that they should pay you if they can do it. I'm worried about the pandemic and organizations not having as much money in the future for internship payment. That doesn't mean they're not going to do internships. I think they will. But the payment might be a little bit tougher to get depending on how much they've been affected by it. Any questions right now? So what I want to do is show you a couple of resumes of our students and what they've done while they've been here to let you know what kind of expectations we have for coming here. So the first one is this young lady named Allie Brennan. She just yesterday got her internship. So she's going out an internship, her 12 credit internship in the spring. So she just got an internship with Major League Lacrosse in Boston, doing some marketing. But you can see some of the things that she's done while she's been at Springfield. She has taken advantage of many opportunities, and that's what you got to do in this field. And the reason I say that is because, there's like 300, 350 sport management programs in the country. And there are even people that are not in sport management getting marketing degrees, business degrees that want to work in sports. So you're competing with them as well. The one thing that I would tell you, Colin and Alyssa, is that I hope you don't mind moving away from New York and Massachusetts once you get your sport management degree, and Peter, your son, because you got to do a nationwide search. A lot of people want to live, where they're from, but that can be really difficult. And there's sport management jobs everywhere, in the United States. So you've got to keep an open mind with that, because if you say, I'm only going to live in the New Jersey, New York metropolitan area, or the Boston area, you're competing with a lot of people and you're definitely cutting down your opportunities. So she worked in our athletic communications office, which is our marketing people that go and cover athletics here. She got an internship last summer with the NCAA men's basketball department, which was a huge get for anybody to do in the summer. And she didn't do it for credit because, you don't have to do it for credit until you're doing it. You got to have 90 credits with us before you can do it for credit. So she's got a lot of information on there about what she did for them. She's obviously got the Spalding Hoop Hall Classic, and she worked there for 2 years and did that. And then she's got an on-campus job. She works for our IT department on campus, okay? So this is a student that has done very good work for us. She was worried about getting an internship because there hasn't been as many internships out there. But she was able to get something, and she was panicking for a little while, but it's really only October 7th. So students are going to probably be looking for internships for the spring all the way through, the end of the year. But I knew that she would get something. And the reason I knew it is because she's taken advantage of all the opportunities that she's gotten, and she's gotten some decent stuff on her resume. She actually has more stuff than this, but we try to get students to keep it to one page as an undergraduate. Having said that, I'm going to show you another resume of a student that graduated about 9 years ago. And this kid was probably the best student that I've ever had. And I'm going to show you, I wouldn't say this is the standard. I think, Allie, what I just showed you is more of a standard in terms of, what you need to do while you're here. But this kid broke the mold. Okay. So you can see that he's got, let me boost this up a little bit. You can see that he had 3.85 GPA while he was here. He did a summer internship with the Indianapolis Colts. So a lot of the NFL teams will do summer internships, the training camp internship, because that's when they're doing it. He worked for the Boston Dew Tour when it was here. So he's got a lot that he did for that. Back when he was here, Springfield had a G League team in the NBA. They don't anymore, but he worked for them. Springfield Falcons, which was the AHL, American Hockey League affiliate. He did some time for them. He did the Winter Dew Tour in Vermont. He, of course, did the Spalding Hoop Hall Classic. He worked for the Basketball Hall of Fame while he was here. And that's just page 1, by the way. Here's page 2. And normally I would tell you never have more than a 1-pager unless you've got something on page 2 that's really, really good. So he worked, we had a Nike championship clinic here that he worked at. The American Hockey League All-Star game was in Worcester that year. They don't have an AHL affiliate anymore, but they did back then. He and his friends drove down to the 2009 BCS National Championship game and volunteered for that. We have a minor league baseball team. It's actually a Futures League team or a collegiate baseball league team in Holyoke, Mass. He worked there during a summer. And then he did the Hoop Hall Classic a couple times. He was a member of the Sport Management Club. And he did some other things here. And Matt is now the assistant to Brian Cashman for the New York Yankees. So he did a ton while he was here. I don't expect everybody to do what he did, because there's not as many opportunities as there used to be. I mean, you could go and do these things for the NFL, and it was a little easier to get back then. But the point is you got to be at least where Allie is in terms of doing things while you're here. So we gave her the Practicum opportunity, the internship opportunity, the Spalding Hoop Hall Classic, but then she went out and got some other stuff. So she got the thing with the NCAA last summer. And then this past summer, she's not on her resume, but she worked for Quinnipiac University in their marketing department during the summer in athletics. So she was able to go get 4 probably things on her own. So she probably had 7 new things on her resume between when she started and when she's ended. And she's going to have something new with her internship out at the Major League Lacrosse. So I wanted to show you a couple of things with our students. We do have a lot of students that are student athletes as well. So if you're going to end up being a student athlete, the coaches are very understanding about you doing professional opportunities. You can't miss class for lift or things like that. You can't miss class for practice. You certainly can miss class for games. That is a college excused absence, but they're pretty understanding about it. We want you typically to take 15 to 16 credits a semester. The reason we want you to do that is we want you to only have 12 credits left at that last semester, because that's when you do your internship. We don't want you taking another class, hopefully, while you're doing that internship, because we want you to be very focused on them. And mostly because we want you to get hired. So questions that you guys might have now that I've gone over through some of those resumes. Wow, I must be like crystal clear on this stuff. What about you, Matt? Do you have any questions? I guess Matt's just listening to me. That's okay. Other things I can tell you, places where I'm thinking of other questions that have gotten open houses. People have asked us where we've placed interns. So I'll show you one place where we've placed them. So this background behind me here is Sporting KC's facility out in Kansas City. We created a relationship with them. It's an MLS franchise, probably about 5 or 6 years ago. And I think we've probably had about 6 or 7 interns there. So once we create a relationship with somebody and they like one of our students, we try to make it a repeat thing. So Providence College is a new one for us recently where we've had a lot of students work there. Wake Forest Athletics, we just had a student go down there this semester. So she's down there now. So we started with them probably last year and they said, we love your students. Can we get more of them? Springfield College students are very well known for kids that hustle. So we send a lot of interns up to UMass. And this is not a knock on UMass, but UMass gets a different kind of kid than Springfield gets. And they love our kids up there in athletics more than their own sport management students. And I'm not making that up. I'm not going to toot your horn. I'm not tooting our horn needlessly here. I'm not here to sell you guys a car. I'm just here to give you information about our program. But we've gotten a lot of good compliments about it. And, you know, the guy up at UMass that runs their fan engagement department, although I think he's in, I forget where he is now. He's still in their athletics department. He says, I love your kids because they're confident, but they're not cocky, you know, and they hustle. So you're going to get that work ethic while you're here from us. You know, you might not like us because we say, hey, you know, you got to do a little bit more than what you're doing, you know, particularly in class. So if you're, you know, you're kind of just turning in average work, you know, at some point, somebody's going to have a conversation with you and say, I think you can do better than what you're showing. And the reason you want to do well in the classes is when you come and ask me your junior year for help with an internship, you know, I'm going to be willing to walk through the fire for you. You know, the kids that do average work, you know, I can't stick my neck out for you in terms of helping you get an internship because, you know, you haven't shown me enough, you know, at that point. It doesn't mean I'm not going to help a kid that's, you know, doing average work for us, but I'm certainly going to try to light a fire under you and try to get you to do really good work, you know, while you're in the classroom with us. The work in the classroom is important. You know, it isn't necessarily networking and things that, you know, you need to be doing to get out and interview for internships, but we give you a lot of real world type assignments in there. We don't do a lot of tests like final exams and midterms and things like that. We do a ton of project work. And that doesn't necessarily mean you're working in a group, although there is a lot of group work. I don't do a ton of group work in my classes because it leads to issues sometimes, but a lot of it's because I want you to learn everything about the project. And when you do group work, you kind of divvy it up. But, you know, again, it's project based. We try to bring in a lot of guest speakers. We probably have about 800 to 900 internship relationships in my little spreadsheet. It's not a little spreadsheet. It's gotten bigger and bigger over the years. So I'm just showing you the Sporting KC thing and mentioned a couple other examples of internship sites that we have because that's what we've been doing lately. But we do get a lot of kids that work out in minor league baseball as well, Major League Baseball too. So that Matt Ferry kid that I was telling you guys about, he did his internship with the Tampa Bay Rays and corporate partnerships. Just stayed down in Florida, got a job as a video coordinator for the Yankees. You know, the old maxim, you know, you need to work hard even when you don't think somebody was watching. Well, somebody was watching him. And that's why he ended up getting a job up in the Bronx. And he's worked his way up through the front office, and now he's one of Cashman's guys. So I have to root for the Yankees, Colin, unfortunately, because of him being on there. Sorry. Well, they're in the playoffs, right?
Yeah, the Red Sox suck.
Yeah, sorry about that.
It's okay. I didn't watch a single minute.
Um, yeah, it was kind of a weird season anyway with only the 60 games. But we're hoping that sport gets back to normal as soon as possible because really the pandemic has affected our kids. So that's one thing to think about for you. I mean, I think things will be back to normal, hopefully, in the fall when you guys go to school, off to school somewhere. A lot of it depends on a vaccine and, our ability to get people back on campus. Right now, we are teaching on campus. There is a lot of virtual work. So I know Alyssa's doing some stuff at home, and I do meet with our students, but only half the class typically. And then the other half is going to be on Zoom live. And then I switch them later in the week. So we are trying to keep those personal relationships going. The tough thing is I have a first year class event management that I'm teaching, and it's really hard to get to know people's names because you're not seeing their entire face because they're under a mask. So it's, that really bugs me because I want to learn people's names as quick as possible. But I think we really do a good job getting to know students while they're here. The better that we get to know you, the more we understand, what you're trying to get out of this major and what you want out of this major. I keep in touch with students even after they leave. I have probably about 600 contacts on LinkedIn, and I would say about half of those are students that came through here. Another thing that parents ask in particular is how many students go out and get jobs in sport. It's hard to track that. Our Career Center tries to track that, and they send out surveys to people, but they don't always get returned. I would say that we do get a lot of students that either go into grad school after or go into sport. I say probably around 45 to 50% will get a job in sport. And then the other ones will either get something not in sport or they'll go to grad school. And that may seem like a low number, but it really isn't because you are competing with a lot of people. And the way to get a job in sport is to be open-minded. And I'll give you an example. So we have a student, I'll tell you a story about him. So he graduated, he's from East Long Meadow, which is right around here near Springfield. And he got an offer from the Midland Rough Riders. I think that's their name. They're a AA Oakland A's affiliate. And if you know Texas at all, Midland, Texas is on the western side of the state. And West Texas is not the most attractive place to live in the United States. And this is nothing against Texas or Texans. There's not much there. There's a lot of desert, a lot of dirt, a lot of oil derricks, things like that. And he's like, gosh, I don't know, Dr. Borland, I don't know if I want to take this job. I mean, I don't know anybody there. It's going to be this whole weird part of the country that I've never lived. I'm like, come on, have a little bit of adventure, have a sense of adventure. So he ended up taking the job. And then he ended up working there for about a year and a half. And he just recently got an offer. I don't know the name of the event management company, but it's the organization that runs the Houston Texans football facility. So he works at that venue now, and it's because he dared to dream and dared to take an adventure. I had another student that got offered a job with a major league or minor league baseball team in El Paso, Texas. It's the El Paso Chihuahuas. And I have no idea what their affiliate is, but he said, I'm not going to take it, Dr. Borland. He didn't. He ended up getting something with the Hartford Wolfpack, which, I was glad, but I was a little disappointed that he didn't say, but a lot of it depends on what your family situation is. He had a girlfriend up in New England, so he didn't want to leave her, and that was part of it. And now he's doing work for the Hartford Athletic, which is the, I think it's the USL affiliate, the soccer league affiliate for Hartford, which is just below MLS. So that's what he's doing now. But we've had students go out and work in a variety of different jobs. One new thing in our department is we now have a smart advisory board. And these are people that all work out in the profession. And they come onto campus when we're not having a pandemic, and they meet with students. So that's one of the things that's been really huge for our program is that we have these professionals that are advising us about what classes we should add to our curriculum. And we didn't have that before. So we just put that together over the last year. So that's a really big thing for us. Another question I get from parents is, and this is an uncomfortable one for me to answer, is it really worth the amount of money that you have to pay to go to Springfield College? One thing I would tell you is make sure you talk to financial aid and find out what the actual cost is going to be. I think on average, we usually knock off about 25 grand, but some of that could be money that you have to pay back. So financial aid likes to call it financial awards. Okay, it's not really an award if you got to pay it back. So you got to think about that too. So as you're looking at different colleges, one thing I want you to think about is how much money you're going to have to pay back after all this is over with. And I have 2 little kids. I have adopted kids, so they're actually in Connecticut. They're going to get college free. So I don't have to worry about stuff like that, but I know kids have to worry about that. And, that's something, parents, particularly Peter here, are going to have to think about, the financial aspect of it. Because sport management jobs, when you first get them, do not pay very well. I mean, entry-level jobs are in usually the mid-20s to mid-30s. And when you got that loan payment that you're paying every month, $500-600, whatever it ends up being, that's a lot, when you're not making a ton of money. Now you will eventually make money in sport, but it takes a while. Another comment I get from students in particular is, though, I want to work in a front office, like this guy, Matt Ferry's doing. Matt's an outlier, the fact that he was able to get something like that after 5 to 6 years, it takes a lot longer than that. So when a kid says to me, I want to work in a front office, I'm like, okay, well, what are you going to do the first 20 years of your career? Okay, what are you going to be doing? So, you got to keep an open mind. But I think I've covered everything that I want to cover today. But I'm happy to take any questions that people might have. And if you don't have any questions today, you can always email me, and definitely copy down those links, because I think Kate, who's the person who sent those from our admissions office, wants to keep track of you guys, as admissions people always want to do, for sure. Questions that you guys want to ask? Okay. Well, again, my email is there. I'm delighted to meet all of you. I hope to see you again. If you have follow-up questions, certainly. I don't even have business cards ever anyway. So if I were seeing you physically, I wouldn't hand you a business card anyway. I would probably just give you my email address and write it down. So there it is on the chat. And feel free to reach out to me. Happy to answer any questions that you might have. We do on-campus tours. We're still doing those, even though we have the pandemic. And if you ever want to sit in on a class, it would be easy to Zoom you into a class. So you can sit in on a class and kind of experience what the students are experiencing. If you are a student athlete or thinking about that, I would get in touch with the coach of the sport that you're interested in. They can give you a little bit more information about the sport and how that transpires. And then financial aid. I hope that the admissions will help you get in touch with that. I cannot answer any financial aid questions. I don't know enough about it. I can only answer sport management questions. I can't answer a lot of questions about other programs. The one thing I would tell you, one benefit to our program, among I think a lot of benefits, is that you get in right away to the program. You start as a freshman. And that's important because you want to start networking and start, getting experiences. Now, UConn, where I went to school as a PhD student, their undergraduate sport management program, I don't want to criticize it, but they don't let you in until you're a junior. And by that time, you've got to do a lot of work to brand yourself in those last 2 years, really a year and a half, because you're going to be doing an internship at the end of it. I don't think that's the way to operate. I'm not sure what UMass does with their program in terms of allowing you in, but we let you in right away so that you can get started and get busy right away. So anyway, it was nice to meet all of you. I got the recording on this. So Peter, if for some reason you don't get it, or you can send me an email and I'll send it right along to you. And if you guys want the recording as well, you can send me an email if you want to watch this whole thing again. If you've got 45 minutes to kill, happy to do that. But just let me know what you need. I'm here for you to answer any questions. Okay. Nice to meet you guys. Have a good rest of the week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.